Welcome back, guys. This is round two, second truck. First truck we got done last night. Going at it on the second truck. As you can see, cabs off, cams out. When I was pulling all the lifters though, I want to show you something. Now this truck only has 10,000 miles on it. Can you see a difference in those? You see how they look kind of like they've been polished with Scotch-Brite versus those ones? 7 out of the 12 push rods are already worn, which means the rockers are already worn, which means the lifters are already starting to go. This thing, again, 10,000 miles, that's it. That's how fast these things go. So we're going through some footage, and you know, we had a truck a while back that we did the bulletproofing on, and it was the one that only had 10,000 miles on it. I think you guys will remember this. There'll be part of this in the beginning that my SD card ran out of space and I didn't catch it. Anyway, it didn't save all the video, so we're going to go back into that. And we're going to talk about this cam and lifter issue on this 5th gen Cummins, and it's really starting to infuriate me more and more and more the longer that this continues to be a problem. So we're going to get into it for a second. Now, the cam and lifter issue, where we're seeing a lot of push rods failing prematurely, and of course when the push rod fails, then the rocker arm, of course the wear pattern, and that is, you can't just stuff a new set of push rods in here and expect your problem to go away. The rocker arm assembly also has to be replaced because of the wear pattern that is now established off of a worn out push rod. Now you only have so much space in that lifter where it can account for wear, and once we exceed that, then you start putting additional wear on the lifter as well. So you see how this snowball starts getting faster and bigger the more down this hill we go. Okay, don't need to beat that any more harder than we already have. What I do want to talk about though, and what I really want people to start talking about, not just me, I need a lot of other people online to start talking about this, because we need to start holding these model manufacturers to a better standard. What I have been noticing, whether it's in the Hemi or the Hurricane or whatever manufacturer that you drive, they are only building these things to get them through the 100,000 mile warranty, period. They're not trying to build good quality vehicles that are going to last for decades anymore. Those days are long gone. And for the amount of money that people are spending on these new trucks, like I think the one that I'm sitting in right now is running right close to $90,000. It's a Laramie Cummins, everything that you'd want on your vehicle, right? If you really wanted to spend that kind of bang. How many of you want to spend that kind of money for a truck for it to only last a couple years? I don't know too many people out there that do. The only people that are actually getting the longevity, you know, 10, 15 years out of these trucks are the people that only put 5,000 miles a year on them. As represented from the start of this video, where I did that bulletproofing job on that one truck out of Colorado, where we had 10,000 miles and only 5 of the 12 push rods were still good. 7 of them were already wore out. This thing hadn't even had an oil change yet. It has nothing to do with some customer's lubrication maintenance schedules or anything like that. This is sheer neglect from the manufacturer. So I really want people to start talking about this, and we need to start making the industries all step up their game and start building vehicles that are going to last, not just past 100,000. Of course, they don't want us to have them last 100,000. They want us to buy another one after that, or another one after that. But that's where this bulletproofing program comes into effect. I built the list so that we could get rid of the known failure prone components to where you can get 15, 20 years out of your vehicle, where you can get 2, 3, 4, 500,000 miles out of your vehicle with very little problems. Of course, you're going to have things break. That's just what happens. And especially on the insides with all of the electronic gadgetry and everything, we're going to see failures in that. But the drivetrain is where I am focusing on. I want to make these engines last as long as possible. And that's where we get into the bulletproofing program. But this has to go 2 different ways. You know, people need to understand that yes, it's expensive, and it can cost upwards of $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, depending on how deep you go to do the program. You go level 1, you just do the coolant bypass and the cam and lifter swap. You go a modified level 1, which adds in a few other things like the Insane diesel oil filter bypass, which that I think should be number one thing you do on any truck that you buy. And these kits can be installed on everything that has an oil pump in it, period. A boat, a four-wheeler, a Range Rover, Chevy, Dodge, Ford, Nissan, doesn't matter. They can be installed on any vehicle out there. But that's kind of getting off the point. We're going to install the best parts that we can find, made as close to or 100% totally in the United States by Americans for Americans, period. I don't need to elaborate on that anymore, especially with 4th of July weekend coming up. Woohoo! Happy birthday, America number 249. Anyway, we need to hold these manufacturers accountable for this junk that they're selling off to the people as quality products. And that right there is where it's getting really hard to recommend any manufacturer. You know, it's whether it's a Chevy or Ford or a Dodge. I work on Dodge only, but I have seen the quality of the Dodge, of the Cummins, slowly deteriorate over time because these manufacturers are putting crap products into your vehicle, expecting you to pay $100,000 for a truck and be happy about it, and then to find out that they're only building it to last 100,000 miles anyway, right? One of the biggest marketing ploys that I've seen here lately is Ram putting out that we're going to give you a 10-year, 100,000 mile warranty. Whoop-de-doo, who gives a crap about a 10-year? To be honest, how many of you people are going to take 10 years to flush out 100,000 miles on your truck when you're doing it in 5 years now already and your powertrain is 5,100? Biggest marketing ploy piece of crap. And how many of you out there are actually biting it? You know, for those of you who only use it 6 times a year to pull your camper, then that's great. That warranty is going to cover you for 10 years. But for a good 70-80% of the population, that 10 years don't mean crap because you've already exceeded your 100,000 at 5 years. So, back to the bulletproofing program. That's why it's so vital that everybody do the math. This is what, anytime my wife wants to buy something, I always pose her this. Do the math. Does the math to where it makes sense? You spend $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 on a bulletproofing program, no matter how far deep you go or not, or do you spend another $100,000 on a new truck in 2 or 3 years? You do the math. Does the math correctly? Then there you go. But I want to end this really quick because, you know, we've got other things to do. But thank you everybody for all of your support. You know, without you, none of this would be possible. I wouldn't have the avenue that I'm going down now if it wasn't for you guys. And yeah, you know, like, comment, subscribe, and all of that stuff. But I'm going to leave it with one more final thought. You've heard me say it 4 or 5 times already. Everybody, start talking. Start making the manufacturers accountable for the crap that they're making you buy. If everybody gets on board with this, they will listen. Period. When you guys quit buying the Chevys and the Fords and the Dodges because guys like me are making your older model Chevys, Fords, and Dodges last 400,000 or 500,000 miles, their sales are going to plummet. And when you speak up about it, they're going to listen and go, huh, maybe we should build something strong again instead of these weak pieces of crap. All right? Anyway, I want to thank JB here. He's been a very huge influence in my YouTube career. He got me started in it pretty much. Not pretty much, totally.
Well, I mean, you bring the wisdom. I mean, I learned so much doing this. So, hey, it's like iron sharpening iron. But, you know, we don't have the time today, unfortunately, but we got to talk about these 2025s. If somebody got to have the bigger screen, if they got to have that 8-speed transmission, can they bulletproof their 2025? Because someone asked me that question, and I can't answer that.
Parts are still in development.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Banks is working on a side draft system So the side draft system on the 25 was developed by Banks several years ago. When Cummins came to Banks and said, "Can we design a side draft?" And he said, "Yes, we can." And they did, and that was for an older generation. They've taken that, and they asked Gale at the time, they're like, "Can we use this down the road?" And he said, "Yeah, sure." And there's your side draft system on your 25. It's not the same exact one that Gale made, but it's the idea, the concept. So as soon as Gale gets his fingers wrapped around it and all of the bugs worked out of it and R&D and all that stuff, we're going to see a Banks side draft intake system for these Cummins. I'm hoping that we're going to see somebody come up with a pan. Maybe it's Banks for the ZF Trans, because we need to get rid of that plastic piece of crap pan. Plastic doesn't conduct heat, fellas. Period. Anyway. Why would a manufacturer design and install a plastic pan that does not get rid of the heat?
Because it's cheaper to produce.
Because they're engineering in a failure point. So we've ranted, we've raved, we've talked about everybody starting to pull together to help hold these manufacturers accountable for the junk that they're making us buy. I want to end it by saying, happy birthday, America.
Happy birthday.
Have a good one, guys. Be safe this weekend. I don't want you not being able to sign in next week because you're dead. So be safe, all right? Peace.